Welcome back to the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Mike Lucas joined as always by Lucas Frankel. Typically, I'm the one late to recording today. It was Frankel running behind schedule, which means something is wrong in the world if my man is not as articulately on time as humanly possible. Frank, I want to know what was up with that decision to be late today, and does that make more or less sense than Kevin Cash deciding to pull Blake Snell after 7-3 pitches in Game 6 of the World Series?
I had a meeting at 4 o'clock that ended up being postponed to 5 o'clock, and then I rushed back to my home studio as fast as I could. So don't even criticize me for that. I got here as fast as I could, and that's the end of that conversation. As for the World Series, obviously I didn't really pay much attention to it until we got to Game 4 was really the first game that I really somewhat was paying attention to. Obviously, the big stuff was Game 6. 6th inning, Rays were winning 1-0. Blake Snell was dealing 5 1/3 innings. Hadn't allowed a run to that point. 2 hits, 9 strikeouts, absolutely dealing. One of those games where in the postseason where that pitcher that you start out there puts a team on his back. You've seen it so many times throughout the years, whether it was CC Sabathia, Justin Verlander, Chris Sale, Maddox, Glavine, all the great pitchers of baseball, in the
last year, Scherzer and Strasburg last year.
Scherzer and Strasburg. Every year in the playoffs, you had that game in the playoffs where you throw your ace out there, your horse, and he just goes down out there, gives you 8 innings, puts the team on his back. But we have Mr. Analytical here, Kevin Cash, who pulls the plug, brings in, and honestly, what was the worst decision was going to Nick Anderson right afterwards, who had allowed a run 6 straight appearances to that point. Ended up being 7 straight appearances with it, which is a new Major League Baseball postseason record, and an ERA in the playoffs of 5.52. Listen, if you're going to pull out Snell, I don't hate that move as much as I hate going to Anderson because he's your worst reliever. He was so ineffective. What are you doing? I mean, if you have 4 guys that are just pitching lights out and have been untouchable, fine, do it. Go to them because they've been shown that they can get it done. Nick Anderson's been giving up runs every time he's going out there. He can't get anybody out. So as soon as they took him out, you knew they were going to lose. He immediately gave up the lead, and that was the World Series. And one more thought on that before I let you go is what people do have to understand, and what is at Kevin Cash's defense here is that the Rays have I believe either the lowest payroll or they're in the top 3 of the lowest payrolls in baseball. And in order for them to get this far, they have to be creative because they just don't have the resources available to operate as a team a normally functioning team. So they do have to be creative. They do have to mix things up. They do have to take these risks. And Kevin Cash has been doing this all year long. They wouldn't have gotten this far if Kevin Cash wasn't managing the way he did. And he stuck to his guns. And when it mattered most, it backfired.
Well, you took I very much agree with you on both points. I was hoping you only took one so I can make the other. You took both. So I'll kind of zag here, Frank. Analytics is ruining sports. Analytics to an extent can help. It could validate what you believe your eyes are seeing. But to run a baseball game or a basketball game or a football game based on analytical simulations will lose you more games than not. I saw numbers on Get Up this morning. Blake Snell against the lineup for the 3rd time. His opponent batting average went from 180 to 349. Those numbers are defensible. Oh, I understand. Okay, if that's your reasoning, take Blake Snell out. I get it. And I agree with you. Nick Anderson's the worst guy to put in. I have less of an issue with them taking out Blake Snell than I do putting in their worst reliever this postseason. He was their best pitcher during the regular season, and Cash obviously trusts him immensely. But look at all the guys at the back end of that bullpen. If that's the time you're taking Snell out, you put in your best reliever, even if it is only the 6th inning, because that's a situation you feel like is a must, a situation you have to get out of without giving up a run. Also, Tampa Bay only scored 1 run in that game. They weren't winning that game 1-0 either, but hindsight's 20/20. Back to analytics though, Frank. At some point, you have to just trust your gut. And Aaron Boone drives me bat poop crazy sometimes because he refuses just to trust his gut and go with the flow. There are certain guys who you trust in those situations. And Dusty Baker did it earlier this postseason with Zach Greinke. It was a 3-0 count. He went out there and Zach said, hey, I got this. Trust me, I got this. And Dusty Baker had every intention of taking him out, walked back to the dugout, and Greinke got out of the jam. It was 1 single. This wasn't a runner in scoring position. This wasn't a home run. This was 1 single. The second hit he allowed all game. He had only thrown 73 pitches, and the next 3 guys in the lineup were combined 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts in their first 2 rounds against Snell. I hate the decision to take him out. I think analytically speaking, yeah, it may have been the right move, but you go to someone else. You don't go to Anderson. And it's a trend we see in sports now, Frankel. Computers are running the show. It's not gut anymore. We see people going for 2 way too early in football games because the analytics say you have a better chance. Your win probability increases if you get it on the first one. We see in basketball, look at the Rockets. They shoot 6,000 threes a game because the math says that's analytically a better way to outscore your opponent. I'm sure it's in hockey. I don't watch enough hockey to know for sure, but I'm sure it's in hockey as well. And it even happens in college football with the RPOs, the spread options. There just has to be a point where we've gotten so far on the analytics side of things, it has to revert back towards the mean of coaching with a sense of game time decision and reality. And it sucks because I really like that Rays team. I thought Kevin Cash did a fantastic job. They were like, I love G-Man Choi. I got a soft spot. Randy or Rona, however you say his name. Whatever he is, I love him. Manuel Margot. Like, they just seem like a likable bunch. But yeah, Kevin Cash overmanaged, I thought. And if you're going to overmanage, you have to play each decision perfectly. And he had done that for the first 60 regular season games and 12 postseason games. And in game 13, it finally came back to bit him in the butt.
All right, a couple things. First of all, the Rockets' point is the Rockets' moot point is moot because they didn't win anything. At the end of the day, they didn't win anything. Yeah, maybe Chris Paul.
Analytics hasn't won anything. Every team that's bought into analytics completely has not won a championship.
You're making that point, but you don't know that. You don't know what's going on in the Lakers front office. You don't know what's going on in the front office.
No. Actually, no. I got another example for basketball. Even take out the Rockets. Look at the Bucks. Giannis only played 32 minutes a game in the regular season. They run through the regular season, and Budenholzer says, "Hey, that's our system. We're going to keep him fresh for the playoffs." You get to the playoffs, and you got Jimmy Butler playing 46 minutes a game against Milwaukee, and Giannis can't play 36, even though Giannis is 10 years younger and the back-to-back MVP. Because Budenholzer swears that by sitting him out in certain situations, that'll keep him fresher for late in the game. I mean, it's you're so bought into the system. You're so tied to what got you there. And I understand to a certain extent, you have to stick to that mantra, but you got to go on a game-by-game basis. You have to coach, and Giannis in a playoff game has to be out there 44 minutes. The Lakers played LeBron and Davis 43, 44 minutes a game in the finals because Jimmy Butler was doing that on the other side. So I think coaches get in their own heads too much sometimes.
It's hard to say. I mean, the whole analytics thing it's really blowing up, and I honestly I can't really speak. Like the most blatant example is the A's, right, the Moneyball A's who never won anything. That's the most blatant. I mean, they've had based on their payroll, the fact that people look at the A's and like, oh my God, they had no money and they made it this far, and they sort of blow them up to be like this incredible Cinderella story, but in reality, they didn't win anything. And yeah, when they were good, they had, Zito, Hudson, Mulder, Giambi, Damon, Miguel Tejada. I mean, they were loaded just top to bottom with really, really good players. So it wasn't like you had this, little engine that could thing. The Rays got a ton of good players. So it's hard to say. The whole analytics thing, yeah, it's really annoying. And as soon as they took Snell out, obviously instantly it was like, wow, this is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in baseball history. So I started thinking back, what is comparable? What is something that compares to a decision as blasphemous as this? The two that I came up with were right off the top of my head were Aaron Boone taking out Davey Garcia after winning for J-Happ. That was doomed to fail from the start. And the second one was Grady Little living in Pedro in Game 7 of 2003 ALCS. Those are the only two I could really think of in terms of a decision that in the moment just made zero sense and both.
Just baseball?
I mean, I was just referring to baseball, yeah. Okay,
yeah. I'm trying to think of other sports just to extend the conversation. I go on. Pete Carroll decided to throw the ball from the 1-yard line against the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
because the quote unquote analytics say you get 2 chances, you get to run 2 plays if you throw the ball on 3rd down.
Yes, I hate thinking about that. I don't like.
Analytics has a spot in sports. It has made sports better. It has improved the quality of the game. But I just think, it takes away from the beauty of sports, which is that it's an emotional event. And also, one last thing, Kevin Cash made the wrong decision in hindsight. Obviously,
no. For no hindsight, it was the wrong decision.
But regardless, he made the wrong decision. But he could go back to his front office and be like, "Hey, listen, we followed the numbers all year. I was just following the numbers. You tell me to follow the numbers. I was just following your orders." The front office can't fire guys for following their orders. You know.
I just want to see what happens with. I hope that this creates like a major distrust between Snell and the Rays. That he's just so fed up that he like demands a trade
to the Yankees.
To the Yankees,
and we get him and Trevor Bauer.
I want like some dysfunction here. I mean, the Rays, we played them 10 times this year. They went 8-2 against us during the regular season. Obviously, they beat us in 5 games, and it's crazy because if so many things just change.
If J.A. Happ wasn't born 37 years ago,
or if the strike calls or and what, like so many factors, the Yankees could have easily won that series. But whatever. All right, couple last points here on baseball. First off, in Game 5, I think that if the Rays execute that steal at home, they win the series. And then the second thing on the World Series is the whole Justin Turner debacle. I actually just talking about this with some coworkers at work, and they were like defending Justin Turner, which I was floored by. I mean, the fact that you get tested positive for coronavirus and you immediately start hugging your teammates and
kissing your wife.
I mean, do you like not have any common sense at all? And then the fact that you're so like insistent on celebrating with your team and you're going out there without a mask. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then afterwards, it was just a complete debacle. And then Rob Manfred, so lucky that there wasn't a game set. I mean, he lucked out so hard that he did not have to deal with the potential fallout of, canceling baseball for a week. If I don't believe any other Dodgers have turned out to test positive, but like, let's say like 5 Dodgers tested positive: Bellinger, Betts, Turner, Kershaw. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah, no, I can't. And also, like,
it would have been like the most perfect like 2020 thing is like the World Series being completely stopped because Justin Turner didn't leave the dugout when he had coronavirus. And
you
like
play 6 games in 7 days and take 2 weeks off to play Game 7. Feels like the most perfect 2020 ending. Yeah, from Turner's perspective, if I was in his shoes, I would have been, dead set on getting on the field and celebrating because that's what you do when you win a World Series, especially if you haven't won one before. But he went against the MLB security guards who told him to stay. And I think he should be suspended, 20, 30 games to start next season for blatantly putting everyone else in danger, for going again. I mean, he told these security guards, "I'm not staying. You can't stop me from staying," and left. They put him in isolation. My big issue, though, is why pull him mid-game?
They didn't get the test back. They got the test back when
I know. I get that. A, why are we getting test back mid-game? And B, if he was already in a dugout with all these guys, he's already just at that point, let him finish the damn game. What difference does it make pulling him in the 6th inning versus letting him finish out the last couple innings? And then they were all exposed to him regardless of whether he went out there at the end of the game to celebrate, because they were in the dugout, in the locker room beforehand, and these test results have to come in before game. That was the most ridiculous thing to me, was how are we getting results mid-game?
Is that the police coming for you? Is that what that was?
There's a highway not a highway, but a major road half a block that way. I guess you hear an ambulance going down the street.
Maybe that was the thing, Maybe it was like, we played 8 innings with this guy. Like, if we have coronavirus, we probably already have it, so screw it. That was probably their mindset.
Yeah. My issue with them releasing results mid-game and not knowing before the game started that a player was positive or tested positive, that's more outrageous than anything else we've seen in baseball this season.
All right, let's move on to the National Football League.
Wait. I got one more baseball thing I want to bring up, Frankel. Anything from this shortened season you think MLB should institute on a permanent basis moving forward?
That's a good question. I don't know. I hate the expanded playoffs. I hate rendering regular season games meaningless.
Yep.
The extra inning rule
with the runner on second, I like that. I think after the 11th. So you play the 10th and 11th straight up.
Yeah, that's fine.
The 9th, and then 12th inning, you start with the runner on second. And I like the 7-inning doubleheaders.
If you do play double, 7-inning doubleheaders is probably one that makes the most sense. So that way you're not completely burning your pitching in a day and it ruins you for a week. That probably is the one that makes the most sense.
All right, let's talk about football now.
All right, Trevor Lawrence. Let's start with him real quick. He opened his big mouth. I actually tweeted at him.
I saw it, and he had the audacity not to answer you.
He did not respond to me, which he should know better. LeBron didn't respond to me last week. These people, they need to understand who they're talking to and everything. It's all good. So Trevor Lawrence opened his big mouth and he said that he's basically didn't shut the door on returning to school. And like, I'm so sick of this story. Like, dude, like, just put it out there. Don't continue the speculation. Don't keep stirring the pot about this story because it's ridiculous. And I'm sick and tired of hearing it. You buy or sell that there's any chance he stays at Clemson?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. He's already engaged to his high school sweetheart. He is extremely religious. And this Clemson team this year's a chance to win a national championship, and then also has a chance to win a national championship next year. He's been the projected number 1 pick for 3 years. So that's not changing. Whether he comes back or goes, he will be the first overall pick when he comes out. And college is supposed to be the best 3-4 years of your life. And if his girlfriend has one more year, fiance, has one more year in college and they want to live their best life together in Clemson, where I'm sure he lives like a king, why not? There's so much uncertainty with the NFL, with COVID, what's going on. Will his girlfriend be able to come visit him? Is he have to quarantine it? Like, I do think there's a better chance than you're giving him at returning. I still expect him to declare for the draft, and I love how you already hate Trevor Lawrence before he's the quarterback of your team for the next 15 years. But, yeah, I don't think it's impossible.
I've already accepted the fact that he's not coming, and I do hate him. And that will
Is it the hair? Is it, you're going to be one of those people that want him to cut his hair immediately?
No, I just this whole like, because I've been hearing about this. I feel like for months, like Trevor Lawrence, you don't want to go to the Jets. If you go to the Jets, your career is ruined. It's all I hear nonstop, 24/7. And I'm taking my anger out on him and that. And
he would look horrible in green uniforms. He's definitely a lighter color quarterback. The green uniforms would not suit his hair very well at all.
All right. Speaking of the Jets, they're facing the Chiefs this week. They're going to get killed. They're 19.5-point underdogs. And Chris Jones, I mean, dude, like, why are you humoring me? Chris Jones today's Thursday. He runs his mouth. He goes, speaking about the Jets, they're a very good football team. People forget that because they haven't won a game. I haven't forgotten it. I've seen it. They stink. They're atrocious. They're the single worst team in the NFL. Don't humor me about, the Jets. We got to watch out for the Jets. Shut up, Chris Jones. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't even spew that nonsense. How dare you? I've lost respect for you. Keep your mouth quiet on this matter.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets suck. He knows that. Patrick Mahomes knows that. Andy Reid knows that. But sometimes you have to give them a little respect. So it feels like it's a real game and not just an extra practice on Sunday instead of a bye week or a real game. It's also the Le'Veon Bell revenge game, Frankel. And I fully expect Le'Veon to get 25 touches, 2 touchdowns, and 120 yards against Green this weekend. And I also fully expect him to do the touchdown celebration dance imitating Adam Gase's introductory press conference where his eyes are following a taco shell all around. I don't know how he's going to do it, but I fully expect the touchdown dance shot at Gase after he scores his first touchdown on Sunday.
Le'Veon should be so thankful for the Jets. I mean, he gave him the money he wants, and then when he wanted to be traded, they put him in the best possible situation, the best team in the NFL. He should be worshiping the Jets for how they treated him.
I agree.
There should be no ill will at all. That's all I got to say about the Jets. I really don't want to discuss them anymore. Elsewhere, the AFC East, Tua. It's Tua time in Miami. He's making his first start this Sunday against the Rams. And CC Sabathia, I know who really cares what CC Sabathia has to say about football.
This quote makes no sense, by the way.
So he, it sort of does, but either way. So he goes on the Bill Simmons podcast. Did you listen to the whole podcast, by the way?
I did. CC's great, by the way.
Yeah, he's a really good personality. He has a really bright future for himself in media. But so he goes on the Bill Simmons podcast, which is a great podcast. Probably my second favorite podcast of this one. He goes, Tua will be the Phil Rivers of his draft class to the Eli and Ben. Obviously, Eli and Ben both won 2 Super Bowls. Eli probably shouldn't have deserved any of them, but he did end up.
Shut up.
Good for him. But he basically says that Tua will be like the of those two, with Herbert, Burrow, and Tua, he will be third to those guys, which could easily happen. I mean, Herbert looks like a freaking monster so far. Burrow, who knows if his career will be ruined by playing for the Bengals since he's already paying a major price for it. But I mean, it's an interesting point. What did you make of it?
Well, it's impossible to put that stereotype on a guy.
Stereotype?
Yeah, Philip Rivers never won, so he's calling him a loser. It's impossible to put the loser stereotype.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but he's saying, look, these two guys are winners and Philip Rivers is a loser. That's the differentiation between Eli and Ben and Phil. So to put the loser tag on a guy when he's thrown 2 career passes and hasn't started a game is just it's ludicrous. I mean, I get what he's trying to say. He's the third banana to that group, but Philip Rivers has better NFL passing numbers than Eli did. He might even have better passing numbers overall than Ben. So to just say it without really going into context on what he meant by it, I thought it was kind of a lazy comparison from CC. I'm not going to lie. We've seen Burrow for 7 games. We've seen Herbert for 5, and we haven't seen Tua for any. How are you judging these guys this early in comparison to a historically great quarterback class from 16 years ago now? So,
I mean, there's no basis for it. It's just a prediction. It was just
how would you rate those 3 guys moving forward?
Probably Herbert, Burrow, Tua.
I'd go Burrow, Tua, Herbert.
It's hard. The big knock, if Burrow was in a better situation than Cincinnati, it would be different. But I just feel like his career will probably end up being ruined by playing for that franchise. No, I mean, you chuckle about like.
No, that's the same concern Trevor Lawrence has about going to the Jets. It's valid.
Whatever. Let's play out a game of Contender or Pretender. You wanted to do this.
I did. Frank, I'm going to pull up these teams. I want to hear. By Contender, I mean they have to win 2 playoff games, not just make the playoffs. They have to win 2 or do they have the ability to win 2 playoff games? We'll start off with the Cleveland Browns. No Odell, but they are 5-2, Frank. Can they win 2 playoff games?
0% chance. Absolutely not. Baker Mayfield is doomed to fail. They got off to a great start during the year, but you're starting to see injuries pile up. Nick Chubb is still hurt. They lost Odell. I don't think I'll ever trust Baker in a big spot. Absolutely not. To win 2 playoff games, are you kidding me? Absolutely not. 0% chance.
I 100% agree. The 49ers coming on late here, Frank. Can they win 2 playoff games in the NFC?
So I went through this yesterday during one of my segments for work, and they're a blatant pretender because I like 3 of the teams in the division better than I like them. I think they have the weakest quarterback in that group. They've been devastated by injuries with Bosa and Solomon Thomas. We'll get to the rest of the teams in that division, but I think that of the 4 teams in that division, they're the clear worst team by far.
I'm going to disagree. I think they are a contender. They have the experience. Jimmy G is finally healthy again. Now, I still think he's the worst quarterback in the division, but I don't think he's a bad quarterback. And that defense is finally rounding into shape as they get some guys healthy. And they run the ball so damn well that when their running backs do get healthy and they're not picking up me and you off the street and still running for 120 yards, I think that offense is good enough to win some games in the postseason. Sticky in the division, the Rams, Frankel, are they contenders or pretenders?
I think they're a contender. I think that Goff looks good. That defense with Aaron Donald, he gets like Lawrence Taylor comparisons. It's wild, like how that dude can just dominate a game, and they have the track record, and they don't have the injuries like the 49ers do. And I trust Goff way more than I trust Jimmy Garoppolo at this point in the season. And with Ramsey and Donald on that anchoring that defense, and I think the Rams have the ability to get it right when it matters.
I agree. If you could control the line of scrimmage, you get a point in my book. They obviously can with Donald and Andrew Whitworth as left tackle. And then can your coach scheme ways to get guys open and score points? And I think McVay is as good as anyone in the league at doing that. So I put them in the contender category. I put the Cardinals, though, in the pretender category, Frankel. I think what they've done is fun. I think Kyler Murray is exciting. I think Cliff Kingsbury has things rolling, and DeAndre Hopkins is dynamic. But when push comes to shove, I think they're more of a high ceiling, low basement team. And when the season comes to an end, they'll be closer to that low basement than that high ceiling.
You're probably right. I mean, I love Kyler. I mean, he's on my fantasy team and not in the early league, in my work league, and he has just been a godsend. He is so much fun to watch. I watched that entire Seahawks game the other day, and he was just completely electric from start to finish. I believe he only had he made one bad play the entire game. I mean, that dude.
He's unbelievable.
When he scrambles in the pocket, I mean, you can't touch him. He's he gets by everybody and everything. They do have a tough schedule coming up. They have the Dolphins with Tua, which actually should be a very interesting game. The Bills, who have struggled but should be able to turn on the Seahawks again. The Patriots, who may turn it around by then. Who knows? The Rams, Eagles, 49ers, and Rams again. So they got a gauntlet coming up. So they'll be tested. I mean, it's easy to say they're a pretender, but I think with Kyler and Hopkins and Drake and Edmonds and those guys and Patrick Peterson, who shut down DK Metcalf. I mean, he made DK Metcalf a non-factor in that game. I was playing against him in fantasy, and that was huge. They're probably a pretender, but I'm saying they're a contender because I think that if they get hot at the right time, they can keep this going. Kyler has a chance to be a really, really special player for a really, really long time.
I agree. All right, you mentioned the Bills. Let's go to the Bills.
You said they're a pretender.
I said, yeah, they're a pretender.
I say contender.
Yes.
You say pretender. I say contender.
Yes. No one's disagreeing. I said you mentioned the Bills. No, they are pretenders. The Cardinals are pretenders, as are the Bills, which is our next team, Frankel.
The Bills.
The Bills.
You see, I was torn about this one. Let me see. I wrote something down for the Bills. I wrote the Bills down as a contender because they're going to win the AFC East by process of. I mean, unless the Dolphins. If I were to, don't be surprised to see the Dolphins win that division. You know what? John Brown being hurt, I think, has really hurt the Bills. They have no semblance of a running game. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, whoever they got running the ball, is just not getting it done. But we saw Josh Allen, and everyone was healthy, how good that offense can be. I think they are a contender. I don't love the pick, but the fact that they're going to win the AFC East, assuming that Tua doesn't go on this magical run, which could very well happen. But when they get John Brown back and with Diggs emerging as one of those two, I mean, I believe him and DK are like neck and neck, and Hopkins. He's the top 3 receiver in the league this year. So I'm gonna say contender.
I go pretend. I just don't trust that defense. As good as it was last year, they have been equally disappointing this year. 2 more teams, Frank. Chicago, 5-2, got smoked on national television on Monday night. Please don't tell me you're buying Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, and Matt Nagy over in Chicago.
That's the easiest one you gave me. They're a blatant pretender.
Don't even explain it. I agree. All right, New Orleans, the Saints. I'll go first. Pretender, 2 words. Breeze, noodle, arm. That was 3 words. I'll say it again. 3 words. Breeze has a noodle arm. Pretender.
Michael Thomas returned to practice on Thursday. You watch when he comes back. Drew Brees will turn back the clock. They are 100% a contender. Breeze, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray. That offense is loaded. I trust them in a playoff game in a big spot. They're a contender, and that's all it comes down to. When they get Michael Thomas back, that's the game changer for them.
Well, my fantasy team could really use him because I'm 1-6.
I tried trading for him. You were quickly rejected the trade.
You offered like Mark Ingram and Edelman, who neither of them play. So yeah, get out of here with that hockey. All right, what do we got left, Frank? What do we got left?
We can talk about Antonio Brown real quick. Buccaneers made that move on Friday night. It's interesting that the fact that Arians shot it down, but this is clearly, as much as they are going to deny it, has Tom Brady's fingerprints all over it. There's nothing that anyone can say that will change anyone's mind. I actually speculated at the beginning that Brady, part of the reason why Brady wanted to leave New England so badly is because Belichick was never going to get to work with Antonio Brown, and he knew that he needed better weapons. And and he knew that if he went somewhere else where he could get Antonio Brown with him, that he was going to embrace that opportunity. And Brady's the whole reason why he's there.
Yeah, Brady has wanted Brown, has openly spoken about playing alongside Antonio Brown. And I think he, despite what Arians and Jason Licht and Jason Light and Brady have said, this was a total Tom Brady, you're coming with me to Tampa when the time is right situation. He's going to take Scotty Miller's place, and Scotty Miller's open pretty often in this offense because how much attention defenses have to pay to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Gronk, OJ Mayo when he was healthy. So if you replace Miller with now Antonio Brown, who might be the best receiver we've seen in the NFL the last 10 years cumulatively, that is stupid scary for opposing defenses. The Bucs, man, they're loaded. And when do we start considering Tom Brady for the GM of the Year award? Between getting Antonio Brown, Gronk, and Leonard Fournette to join the team out of virtually nowhere, I do think when you look at the MVP award at the end of the season, even if Brady doesn't have the numbers, that has to be some semblance of a factor in the decision.
It's not a bad point, but a bigger point is look where the Patriots are.
Yeah.
Where the Buccaneers are, I told you all along, it was all Tom Brady. It was not Bill Belichick.
Then there is no talent on New England whatsoever. And that is partly on Belichick. That is very much on Belichick for striking and swinging and missing in the draft and free agency the last few years. But I think you could put any quarterback in New England right now, and there's just no one to throw to and no weapons whatsoever.
It is very scary from a fantasy perspective because you could have a week where Mike Evans has no catches. You could have a week where Chris Godwin has like 12 catches. So to predict how that team is going to look fantasy-wise is basically impossible. But moral of the story from this podcast, it was all Tom Brady. It was not Bill Belichick. The argument is settled. That'll do it for episode 8 of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Apple Podcast, YouTube, at Lucas Frankel. You know where to find me. LeBron James, Trevor Lawrence. When I tweet at you, you respond. Get it together. See you next week. Have a fantastic week, everyone. See you next week.